The future is now was born out of the need to understand what the world will be like in 10 to 30 years' time, when some of the attractions that we work on are due to open. By looking at a series of disruptors from completely different industries, this presentation looks at some major trends and developments that may seem like far-fetched futurology, but are closer to being history than you might think. Margreet Papamichael brings over 20 years of economics experience. She is a director at AECOM as the lead for the Europe, Middle East, and Africa efforts in the themed entertainment and hospitality industry. Margreet is also a TEA Europe, Middle Eastern Division board member, demonstrating her commitment to themed entertainment. She is passionate about this industry and is an outside-of-the-box thinker, bringing fresh perspective and insights into how this relates and affects current future development, trends, and what's going on. Please join me in welcoming Margreet Papamichael.
Oh yeah, I do need that, thank you. I do. Sorry, I've got my hands rather full. So before we launch into this, I have a few household things that we need to discuss. I'll fess up to the fact that I had a misspent youth in the 80s. I'm looking for someone else who had that and who knows how to do a Rubik's Cube. Please, someone save me. Who knows how to do a Rubik's Cube? Solve it, yeah? There? Oh, fantastic. Thank you. You've just saved my bacon. I've been so nervous about this. Fabulous. OK. Yeah, so hang on. Here's the trick. Here's the cube. Do you know him? Yeah. OK, can I trust you? OK, here's the stopwatch. I would like you to time him in solving the Rubik's Cube. OK? And then we'll get back to that later. Cool.
Where do I start?
Oh, whenever you want. And, you know, communicate. I know, difficult. Right, OK. Do you like my coaster picture? OK, David, Gray. What coaster is it? Where's David? Come on. No, mate, it's your neck of the woods. It's Flying Aces Ferrari World. Anyway. The future is now, and I passionately believe that. And I hope that today I will show you that that is indeed the case. So this is the world we live in today. Now, whether we like them or not is effectively besides the point. The point is, this is our world today, and it is increasingly insecure. And the amount of change and the rapid change of that, the constant change of it, is making our world even more insecure. And that we, every one of us, have to deal with. So today is about taking you outside of that bowl for a few minutes. And I say that knowing that I have to get you through 35 of these. Now, before we really launch into this roller coaster, if you want to know what my presentation is about, take out your phone now. Take a picture of that one slide. And trust me, it's all you need, the one slide. I'll give you 5 seconds to do so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I'm nervous. All right, you ready? Roller coaster, seatbelt on. Yeah? Good, we're off. One of the most important changes, I think, that are taking place at the moment is energy. And I want to talk to you about nuclear fusion. And anyone here heard about nuclear fusion? 1, 2, 3. Yeah? Cool. OK, so for those of you who don't know what nuclear fusion is, I don't know much either. But it is 2 hydrogen atoms that were going together. And then out comes 1 helium and a shitload of energy. And it's the energy that's interesting, not the helium. It's the energy that's interesting. There are no nasty side effects to that energy. So if we manage to do this, if we can get this process under control, and if we get this working, then we have no more reliance on fossil fuels. I want you to think about that, because that is going to change the world. the less reliance on fossil fuels. It'll change the entire political makeup of the world we live in today. And just to show you that this is actually happening, right top corner is the ITER factory in France that's been built, where we're going to try and get this done. At the moment, the process is a bit unstable still. We can't get it quite right. But we're up to about 7 minutes now of making this work before anything explodes. MIT, because this is real, MIT received 50 million, that's 50 for those of you that don't get my accent, 50 million to make this work commercially in the next 15, that's 15, years. And they really think they're going to do this. And I actually think they're going to do it too. So that is going to completely change the political makeup of our world. Another one that I think is really important. We're at that really weird point in time where we have more people in urban locations than in rural locations. And that's a boring statistic if I just tell you that. But if I tell you that that puts extra pressure on both our urban locations and our rural spaces, then you're starting to get the point here, right? Because if we keep going like this, the changes are going to be massive. What is it that we're going to do about this? Where do we go? We want to protect the rural spaces, but we need more urban locations. So here's a few suggestions. Does anybody know what the top left-hand picture is? Mars. Oh, Mars simulation. Who said Mars simulation?
Yeah, they're having people out in the desert somewhere as if they were on Mars with no contact, right?
I love you. Well done. Oh, and by the way, anything I say, don't blame AECOM or AECOM, because this is all my opinion. Sorry, Abe. This is truly fabulous. It is. That is in Hawaii. The one on the top is in Hawaii. It's a biosphere 2, I think it was. And we simulated people living in a closed environment as if on Mars. Poor sods. The one below that, anyone know what the one below that is? No, it's also a Mars simulation, yes. But you know what? That was way earlier. That was 1987. And that's in Arizona. You can go there today. It's a visitor attraction. Come on. So yes, you can go there today. So we're getting ready to live on another planet. It's one of the ways we could solve this. On the ice. Anyone know what that is? You're not allowed to say that, Abe. You're not playing that one. Okay, and Abe isn't allowed to play because he works for AECOM, and we built that. That's Haley 6. Haley 6 is a research station on Antarctica. And it was, yes, designed and built, thank you, engineered by AECOM. We're very proud of that. But the cool thing really is not that. The cool thing is that it can move to a new location on its skis. So every time that this ice shelf breaks down yet more, this thing moves itself to a safe location. And that means that we're learning how to live in much more harsher climates, and we'll be able to live within that and adapt to that. Right, in the air, the tallest tower. Anyone know which one it is? Burj Khalifa? No, that's the second one. Nope, it's the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah. You were on the right point, though. Kingdom Tower in Jeddah, under construction, and will hit exactly 1 kilometer in height. And we've never gone higher than that. And that's due to be delivered any day. Bottom right is an AECOM model, and you can buy these actually. This is a home that lives on the water. It has hydraulic, well, I'll call them legs, for want of a better word, which will allow you to stabilize this home. You can have it on the sea or anywhere else. It runs completely on solar power. It harvests rainwater, and is in effect self-sufficient if you live frugally. I think it's a bit small, but I'm sure that we can manage that size-wise. And all of that is changing the way we construct things. And construction is changing massively at the moment. Phil, China. Left top picture. Mini Sky City. Mini Sky City in China is 57 stories high and was built at a rate of 3 stories per day. Did you get that? 3 stories per day. I don't want to talk about the health and safety here. That kind of scares me. But shit, 3 stories a day, that's really rapid. That was basically achieved because what they were using is a modular system. So effectively, you've built all the modules off-site, you then put it together, and you do 3 stories in a day. And then actually, it's not that fast, really, is it? But still, if you think a bit further down, my best friend, well, I don't know, Sam, does 3,000 bricks per day. That's way more than any normal brickie can do. 3,000 bricks in a day. He doesn't take a break. He doesn't need a cigarette or anything like that. He lays 3,000 bricks solidly, immaculately per day. And that's going to change our construction. Top right-hand picture is a picture of, well, they call it printing a house. Anyone here iced a cake? And I'd really like it if it were a bloke. No? You guys don't ice cakes? Ah, excellent. Oh, thank you. You're my best friend. Sorry, your position is lost. So you put it all in the bag, right? And then you do this, and you go... Yeah, that's right. OK. Well, you keep that, you turn the K. I just do this. But yeah, that's cool, you have a turntable. OK. A 3D printer doesn't have a turntable. But that's effectively the same way, except you do it my way instead of your way. And you 3D print a house. And that's pretty cool, because quite frankly, the robot that 3D prints, which is that orange thing that goes over the top there, really doesn't need any brake. Doesn't care about the rain or anything like that, just keeps going, right? And it's very, very fast. All you do is you leave space for the cabling, and kaboom, you're ready. So if we put together the modular building with the 3D printing, you get the one at the bottom, which is a 3-bedroom villa that was 3D printed off-site, the individual units in 6 units, and then bolted together. OK, so you want to know how long that took? That took 10 days. Not the bolting it together, but 10 days from the start of printing to that opening party. OK? 10 days, that's nothing. Costs, I think, about 500, somewhere between $400 and $500 to get that. 400, 500. Per square meter, thank you. That was the word, per square meter. I have help here. So that's kind of cool, right? The other way construction is changing is by the new materials that we're inventing and that we're using. Has anyone heard of graphene? And anyone who's heard me speak before is not allowed to put their hand up. Anyone know about graphene? Yes, yes. Do you want to explain to us what it is? Gentleman with a hat on.
Single dimension, super strong.
It is. It's awesomely cool, isn't it? It's 1 atom thin, which is like so thin you can barely see it. But it can do almost anything. It's super strong. It's 500 times stronger than steel, 207 times stronger than steel. And you can do lots of things with it. And the cool thing is, if you take 2 layers of it and you overlay them, then you have something that's better than Kevlar. It bends if you push it softly. And if you slam a bullet in it, it withstands the bullet. So we're finding out some really cool new materials that can do all kinds of things. And we're finding them in different ways. We're finding self-healing materials. And we do that in 2 different ways. We do that with microbes, where the microbes heal the structure. But we're also doing that with polymers. Now, polymers is the way that you may have heard of when we have self-healing glass. Microbes is the way in which we have self-healing concrete. And I think that's important, because if we go back to that 1-kilometer tower, can you imagine why we need self-healing materials? So that's why I think it's important. We're also biofacturing materials. We're biofacturing meat. And that first burger has been eaten. It came out of a Petri dish. No animal was harmed in the process. And that gives us a much more sustainable way of feeding, of protein feeding, our ever-expanding population. We're also finding shape-shifting materials. And what you see there is an airplane, a NASA airplane, that has shape-shifting metal incorporated, which will allow you to bend the wings and adjust its aerodynamicity, whatever. You get the point. Where are we? The other thing that's really changing our perception of the world is security. It used to be location, location, location. I reckon it's location, location protection at the moment, and that may change even further. And I want to point out to you that this isn't just an ISIS thing. This is anything that works that way. So yes, it's terror, but it is in the Middle East as much as it is anywhere else in the world. It is also a rogue shooter that's put his hands on a gun, that is angry. It is also malware that gets spread and holds the National Health Service of the entire UK to ransom for days on end. It's all of those. And we have to deal with that, and we have to find ways of making that work. Not just because we want to protect our assets and our visitor attractions, but also because we want to make sure for our visitors that it is safe, and they need to know that. And they need to see that we care and that we do this. So we can't just hide it all somewhere. We need to do it publicly and address publicly that fear that currently exists. Whether we do that through bracelets or any other matters is entirely up to us. The next big thing, in my eyes, is the way travel is changing. This is hypersonic flight. And there are 3 pictures on there. Anyone seen any of these before? Well, 3 airplane pictures. No? Who doesn't want to talk? Right. Top left is the Screamer, as you can see. The Screamer has been developed, should travel at 12,000 kilometers per hour. That's Mach 10, with a focus on speed, not skill. And it has 77 passengers. 75 passengers in that plane at an enormous speed. So that's New York to London in 30 minutes. I'll vote for that. Thank you. The second one is Boom. Now, I think Boom is more interesting, actually, than Screamer, because Boom is funded at the moment by Virgin. And you can say lots of things about Virgin and Richard Branson, but he's not stupid. And he's put his money in this one. So that will travel at Mach 2.2, which is a bit faster than what the Concorde used to do. Not that much, but just a tad. The interesting thing, however, is that will be at the rate of what a current business class ticket costs. So that's a heck of a lot cheaper, right? So the business class ticket that you're buying, because it's such a long flight, you're now buying it to get your time back. LA to Sydney in 3 hours and 15 minutes. Awesome. The bottom right is a plane called the A2. Now that does both speed and volume. That's 300 passengers at a Mach 5 speed, Brussels to Sydney, in 5 hours. That's bloody awesome. And yes, I agree, it sounds like it's way out there and it's never going to happen in my lifetime, right? So, top right-hand corner, anybody know what that is? Yes. Your youth was as misspent as mine.
Absolutely.
Yes. I had one of those too. And I loved it. It was my first computer, and I loved it to bits. From there to my current work iPhone, that I hate, by the way, is the same amount of time it's going to take us today to the development of that A2. So quite frankly, yes, I may be old and decrepit by the time, but it is likely to happen in my lifetime. It is not just in the air that speeds are going up. You will all have heard about Hyperloop. Who hasn't heard about Hyperloop? You know, that would be crazy. But that's the speed of a Boeing 747, but over land. And that's going to be at the price of a train ticket, not a plane ticket. And that's really going to change the distances we travel and how fast we do that. And Hyperloop is supposed to have passenger travel by 2021. It might be 2022, I think, but still, that's pretty close, isn't it? So all of this travel, I think, is important because it's changing what your market is, who your market is, where are they coming from, how are they coming to you, how are they traveling, how are they getting to you, how do you reach them, how do you define who they are, And what are their tastes, and what are the things they're looking for in the future, when you still want your business to be open? And then there's space travel. And I couldn't do this presentation without talking about space travel, right? So I think it really, really was cool when the SpaceX Heavy shot the Tesla into space. And I stood there and I was like, yeah, and I watched it live on the internet, obviously. And I thought, this is really super cool. I wasn't that impressed with the fact that the Tesla went in there. I think that's littering. I was really impressed with the fact that David Bowie was playing in space. I think that's cool. But the most impressive bit, and the most important bit of what happened there is not the ego, but is really the rockets. So that's 3 rockets there on the picture, one big one. It's called the BFR, by the way. You can figure out why. I kid you not. And then there's the 2 side boosters. Now, the reason this was shot into space, or the Tesla was shot into space, was to get this thing back down to Earth. And what they really wanted, what SpaceX wanted, was to be able to recycle these rockets. Because that's the most expensive bit about going into space, is getting out of our atmosphere. So if we can recycle these rockets, it gets to be way more cheap, and therefore much more commercially viable. And that's what they were trying to do. So out of those 3 rockets, the 2 side boosters came back exactly where they needed to be, landed safely on the ship. Awesome. The BFR, unfortunately, didn't have enough fuel to slow down enough, so they crashed it in the ocean. Whoops. But 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I think we'll get to Mars at some point, and it won't be that far away. The one on the right is a space elevator. And the space elevator is a really interesting project. It's built, there's a number of companies who are working on this. There's a Japanese firm, and that's why I'm looking at the notes. It's Obayashi. I can't do that. They reckon they'll get the space elevator working by 2050. And again, this is all about making it commercially viable to go into space. Because if we have an elevator, we don't need the rockets anymore, right? That's what they're trying to do. There's another company that's going to build this on the moon to deal with the fact that we have to understand how we do an elevator where there is no gravity. And they're going to do it on the moon first, and then they're going to do the connection to Earth. There you go. Our lifetime? Possibly. And while we're talking about transportation, let's not go that far afield. Let's talk about local transportation and those last couple of miles that we do. The way our cars are run is going to change tremendously, and it's happening now. We're all aware of electric cars, and that's the one in the bottom middle. That's an electric car, and what you see in the back is the electricity needed and the battery needed and the computer needed for a semi-autonomous car. I want you to have a look, because my suitcase would not fit in that car. And I travel relatively light. But we'll get back to that in a minute. The one on the left is hydrogen. We've had hydrogen cars for a while. The problem with hydrogen cars is that we don't have the infrastructure for the hydrogen. And it's difficult to get that infrastructure laid out so that you can just top up your car, right? So that's a problem. Bioethanol has also been with us for a long time, but it's the same problem. So the reason that that electric car is going to win is not because it's so much more green, which it isn't, because we're still creating the electricity, but is simply because the infrastructure for electricity is around us, all around us, and it's easy to put that into place. And that's why I think electric cars are going to win the race. And this is all really important because it's not just France that is banning cars. Oslo, 2019, bans cars from its city. That's a capital city, and that's going to change the way people travel and the way people come to your attractions, and whether or not you need a lot of the infrastructure you have now. Now, personally, I like the one top left. Yeah? You too, Laura? Okay, I like the top left. It's a Conte FE Sport limousine. It runs on, Laura? No? Salt water. Salt water. How easy is that? Yeah, so if we ever challenge electricity, I vote for salt water, especially if that's the car. It's not just the car and what it runs on that's going to change, it's the way the car is being run and operated. The accident with Uber is going to put a bit of a delay on this one. But I think we're definitely heading towards autonomous cars. And I think that's pretty cool, because we're going from that daft little Google car that we all laughed over, that went at 30 miles per hour. We're going to go down to the one underneath that. Cool car, Laura? Yeah, you see? Bit too much, huh? It's a BMW, fully autonomous. You can order it today. It's going to come out of the factory 2021. Fully autonomous, electric BMW. Super fast, though, Laura. Well, I'm looking forward to autonomous cars simply because I won't have to pay for my kid's driver's license anymore. Thank you. The picture of the villages, which is that over there, is the villages was experimenting with autonomous Ubers effectively, whereby on your app you would order the taxi arrives, you get in, it takes you to where you need to be, and you get back out. And I think that's cool because you don't even have to talk to the driver because there's no driver. And I think that's one of the advantages. You don't have to talk to the taxi driver. And I think this is really important because those cars can park themselves a lot better than I could park a car. Okay, I don't park very well, I'll admit to that. But even so, it can park much better than anyone else. And that means that we need much, much less space for parking than we currently do. And the infrastructure for that will change. And the 95% of the time that your car stands on your driveway, not used, and this is a true statistics for the US, will go away because, quite frankly, that car can pick up your kid while you're at work or can do something else and do a whole heap of things. And therefore, effectively, with a bit of luck, we'll be using cars a heck of a lot more efficiently than we are currently. And ultimately, that might bring the ratio of cars to people down, and that would be a good thing. There are other ways of traveling. It doesn't necessarily have to be a car. So we can go buzz around the world. The Toyota car is the blue one over there with the nighttime sky. That's a two-seater at the moment. That's supposed to become a four-seater. The one below that is the Skyjet taxi, which goes up this way and then moves, so doesn't need a runway or anything. Can't go very far, so this is very much from one city to a close-by other city. And that is the EHang drone, which is pretty cool. EHang drone. David? EHang? Thank you. Dubai taxi. They've tested that in Dubai. You could call it up. It's a taxi. I still want you to book me one. I really do. What does it mean? It means we need rooftop access for transportation for anything we build, because we're going to go up in the air, likely as much as we go over the ground today. And that autonomous transport is not just going to be your car or the EHang drone taxi, but it's a lot of other things at the moment as well. It's happening in trucking, and it's going to have a massive effect there. It'll start with truck platooning, where the one truck follows the other truck, and it's then going to go fully autonomous. The barge, container barge on the right-hand bottom is being built, and this summer should be in operation between the ports of the Netherlands and Belgium. No more people needed. Electric, fully autonomous. And the little dinky toy one there, top right, anyone seen it? Anyone seen it? Have a look.
Du får känna efter med hela kroppen.
Ja. Okay.
It feels very good.
I think feel safe and kind of in control.
Jag litar helt på tekniken här i det här fallet.
Okay, so that's working today. And that transports 11 people. It's fully autonomous. It does go slow, I appreciate that, but it's going slow so that you're happy with it and you trust that technology. And that's key in how we're going to make the jump from transportation with the driver to autonomous transportation. Right, complete change of topic. Demographics have been changing tremendously, and I want to have this sink into your brain. For the first time in human history, people aged 65 and older outnumber children under 5. Can you imagine what that does to an economy? How are we going to afford that? What's more, those people that are having children are having far less children today. So we've gone from 2.45 in the 30s to 1.74 today. So the makeup of our populations is changing dramatically. And that in turn causes a whole load of other problems. And one of them, I think it's a problem, is called tiger parenting, where it's all about the academic achievement of the child and the need to continuously educate this child. And there are people who believe that that's what they need to do with their child, a continuous education. Now, if we are clever, then we build that into our visitor attractions, and you and I, and most of the kids, will still think it's fun. But at least we can sell it on that educational perspective, right? The other big thing that's happening is there are many more single people. I want you to think about that, not because of the sadness that you think it may cause. For many people, this is actually a conscious choice. And if you have a singleton, then there is a lot more disposable income. Can I just leave that with you? Economics, disposable income, market. Our visitor attractions already are making progress in attracting this market much better than we've ever done before. And that could be speed dating in the museum or anything like that. But that is a target market that we need to keep an eye on, simply because their spend per head is far above that of others. Midorexia. Yeah. I know, it made me laugh the first time. I thought, oh yeah, that's funny. Middle-aged and older consumers who act younger than their years. Yeah, you guilty? Who said guilty? Me too. Totally. And then I thought, oh, hang on. Who are they to tell me how I should act? I mean, like, really? Try to tell me how to act? Good luck, not gonna happen. And I reckon that's the entire point of this. The point is that us middle-aged people who act however we damn well want to act are much more active in today's economy than we've ever been before. So not only are people doing second careers in completely different fields, they're also going out bungee jumping. Well, not me, but still. And that is a target market that we can actively attract and actively look at when we're building our visitor attractions and actively make space for and actively market to. Oh, yes, right. How did we get on? 4 minutes, 9 seconds. Woo! Woo! Oh, man. Oh, I am really impressed. I'll tell you what, you can keep it. Thank you. And you can keep that. Thank you. You guys are awesome. 4 minutes and a little. I'll give you the little 4 minutes. Anyway, having said that, I want you to have a look at this. Ready?
Solving in 3, 2, 1.
I'll slow it down. Okay, that was 25%. Should we do that again? Ready?
Solving in 3, 2, 1.
Super cool, right? Okay, so this is not to take away from your awesome success of 4 minutes. That is awesome. But the unstoppable march of robotics will take some of our skill sets that are needed now away. And yes, I do think that doing a Rubik's Cube is a skill set. It's going to take away a large amount of jobs in many different ways that we look at today. But what I want you to have a look at is the type of robotics. Because we used to think it was the girl there, or the funky-looking robots there at the top. But actually, the revolution is taking place on that fingertip. The one on the fingertip is in clinical trials. And it's an electromagnetic little robot that goes in there where your tear duct is. And is then directed to the back of your eye and fixes your lens. And then comes back out through your tear duct. How cool is that? And that's happening today. This is not future, right? That's clinical trials today. Right, the motorbike, any motor aficionados here? Come on, we have enough men in the audience after all. No? Yes. Nice to meet you. Meet the Robobot. No, Motobot. And Motobot is aiming to do a lap faster than Valentino Rossi. Yeah? Wow. Exactly. Now, I don't know Valentino Rossi from Adam, but there you go. That is super fast. At the moment, he's going about 200 kilometers per hour around the lap, which is not faster than Valentino Rossi yet. But he's learning by little increments how to go faster. Did I say learning? Yes. Little increments, however, not big increments, because otherwise he'd crash too often. You'd have to rebuild him, and it's bloody expensive. So little increments so he doesn't crash. But he's going faster every single day. And yes, he's learning. Let's talk about artificial intelligence, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing my job, right? Who uses Spotify? Yes. Oh, I'm glad. I love Spotify. Passionately. And when I first got into Spotify, I would put it on, and I would play this album that I liked. And then at the end of the album, it started playing totally rubbish music. Right? And you hit the off button, or skip. And the more you do that, the more it learns about how to do this quickly. And now, I could just leave it to play, because it plays awesome music after my album. And it's learned that, by the choices we've made, it is now making intelligent choices. So artificial intelligence is the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. And that's what it does. So artificial intelligence, if you think it's new, it's not. It's been here for ages, and we better deal with it. The biggest impact I think it will have, however, is on healthcare, where your GP will sit in your pocket, a bit like McCoy's tricorder, and he'll sit there and check your health as you go through life. And at some point in time, it'll tell you, oi, that heart rate is far too high. I'll have to then tell him I'm doing a presentation, buzz off. But that's effectively what it's going to do. And if that happens too often, it will tell me, no, it's not because of your presentation, darling. You better get yourself checked out. And it'll make an appointment with the right specialist for me. And that's where we're going. And I think that's pretty cool. I think it will also massively change education. And I've picked up on the education bit because, well, let me put an anecdote in here. I have two daughters, for those who don't know me, an 8 and an 11-year-old. Now, if you want to teach my 8-year-old anything at all, you link it into unicorns. Yeah, shit, right? Unicorns. Okay, fine. If you want to teach my 11-year-old anything, however, you link it into biology. And as long as I link in either to unicorns or biology, they'll get it. And this is how education is going to change. It'll go via the web, and it'll tap into the individual interests and things that the individual child wants to do and teach you that way. Therefore, education becomes much more effective, faster. There will still be a need to interact, because we have to teach our children how to work in teams and how to work together. But that won't be in a classroom setting necessarily. That can be anywhere, as long as a group of people can come together. And isn't that what we do for a living? Getting groups of people together for a purpose? Pay attention if you're not doing this yet. Make sure that you're ready to be that venue. I want you to have a look at this.
Art Selfie allow you to connect with artworks in a very personal way. You just take a selfie. Machine learning algorithms try to look within tens of thousands of artworks to see if there is one that looks just like you. The worldwide response was phenomenal as people starting to share their matches and talk about them. Tens of millions of selfies were taken and matched to artworks.
So I think that's super cool. And that's artificial intelligence. So there's a huge amount of data on all these famous and wonderful paintings where the computer has measured the distance, nose and chin and eyes and all of that, and you take a selfie and it then matches you up. So quickly, write down on your notepad, Google Arts and Culture. It's an app. I want you to download it. And then tomorrow, when you see me, show me. Yeah? I'd love to see the picture that you look like. Google Arts and Culture. Download it. It's beta, in the beta mode, but it's awesome. Right, moving on because I'm going over time. The other big thing that's happening at the moment is biohacking. There's a lot of ways we could talk about biohacking, but the important thing is around Liam Malone. And Liam Malone said that in the next 2 years, he's going to go faster than Usain Bolt. Should we do that again? Faster than Usain Bolt. Someone with effectively no full legs. Let's be cruel about this. And he can do that because his artificial legs are better than our homegrown legs. So biohacking is not just replacing something that's defunct, but is actually enhancing the capabilities that we as humans have. And we do that in many different ways, and that's happening today. And ultimately, if you take that thought and you take it further down the line, then it's not a leg, but it's your brain. In fact, why not your whole body? If we can take your brain and we upload it, then we can download it into something else, right? And you have a new body, the same brain. That scares me. This scares me too. This is all about how we're changing the genetic makeup of people. Brian Mardeux. Does anybody know the importance of Brian Mardeux, who's a gentleman lying there? Anyone? I know there's someone because, yes, hello. Oh, no. That's interesting. I'd love to hear about that, though. But that's not what I meant. No, Brian Mardeux has Hunter syndrome. And that is a really debilitating disease. And for the first time in human history, we have changed his genetic makeup in his body without taking anything out. So introduced a virus that changed his DNA. Because Hunter's disease sits in your DNA. If we can do that in living people, that's kind of scary. I mean, that makes cloning your dogs look like yesteryear, right? But if we're cloning dogs for Barbara Streisand, then surely it's not long before we're designing the baby the way we want it, with blue eyes and brown curly hair. I think it's going to take a lot of us to be very vocal to make sure that we regulate this and we think about this very carefully. So I'm scared now. I'll move on to something completely different. Blockchain. You must all have heard about Bitcoin, right? You've all heard about Bitcoin. I can't explain to you properly how blockchain works. I'm not that clever. I really am not. But what it roughly does is it spreads the information over a network of computers. So a change takes place. It is, give or take, immediately, boof, worldwide. So it's hugely transparent. And it's immediate, and it's fully automated. It can deal with self-executing contracts in that manner, and a lot of other things. Now, we're using this in the fishing industry, which means that the fish is sold the minute it comes on board the ship, and the fisherman knows exactly what he's going to get for it. That's interesting if you're in the fishing industry. We're not. It's really interesting, however, if you look at mycelia, right down on your note block, mycelia. Yep, got it? Mycelia is developed by a somewhat frustrated music artist. And she wanted her music to come out in a controlled manner, but she wanted to get all the royalties, not Sony, please. What's more, she wants to understand who plays her music, when it's being played, and for how many people it's being played. And at the moment, Sony doesn't divulge that information to her. So that data and the wealth of information she can get out of the data is not hers, where actually that copyright is hers. It's her product. So Mycelia would change that as a blockchain immediately, because she would own that. She would own the knowledge of whom it was being sold to, and there is no money going to Sony. Now that is something that you in this creative industry need to pay attention to, if not sign up for. And that all goes around computing, and we're going to increase our computing power tremendously. And quantum computing, I hear, is a matter of years away. I don't even know how quantum computing works. And again, I'm really not that clever. But what I do know is that it exponentially increases the amount of computing we can do and the energy it takes to do that computing in. So it's a bit like saying, at the moment, we have zeros and ones. That's how my ZX spectrum works, a 0 and a 1, right? This uses at least 8, if not 16 possibilities, all at the same time. They're not individual possibilities. So that exponentially increases the way our computing power is going to change. So that's going to make that computer in the back of that car, remember that? And the space it took? Well, it's not going to need that much energy anymore, and it's not going to need that computing power anymore, so my suitcase can go in. There we go. So yes, I think those two are really closely related. Thankfully, some things never change. Phew. We will still be meeting in the mall, and that's a good thing. But if you think we're going there for retail, you've lost the plot. We're not going there for retail, we're going there for leisure and entertainment, and good morning, that's us. So if you're not thinking yet about how you should be in a mall, then you need to start quickly. Talk to Phil, talk to me, be creative. That's where you need to be. Some things never change. The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. And I say that about my kids. And funnily enough, Socrates said that 400 years before Christ. That doesn't change. What does change is the amount of freedom we give them to act on that. 67% between 3 and 11 had considerable input or complete control of the purchasing decisions. So the other day, I was having dinner with my family. It doesn't happen often. These two kids, me and my husband, doesn't happen often. But we're having dinner on a Wednesday, and I tell them, yay, weekend's coming, girls. What are we going to do? And, oh, yeah. And they start talking. And I had to go to a conference call. So I said, OK, you guys think about it, and on Friday we'll talk about it. So Friday, I'm there again for dinner. And the question is, what are we going to do with the weekend? And Bella, my little one, 8 years old, I want to go to Thorpe Park. She only talks about Thorpe Park. She desperately, and Helena, my eldest, goes, hang on, Mama. And she walks away, and she comes back with a notepad. She's made a list. She's got a top 10. And then she says, I've discussed this with Bella, and we like number 1, 4, and 7. And I said, well, 1's too expensive, 4's too far away, we'll do 7. Now, who am I kidding? That was not my decision, right? I never took that. That was my kids. So, your markets, designed for the children, market the children, that's where the power is going. We all want a holiday. That's not changing. We want more holidays, we want them more often. And that, for all of us, is a good thing. They may not be as long, but they're short. And that is where our visitor attractions sit perfectly. Every trend has a counter-trend, and that's not going to change either, and that's a good thing. Although 250-odd people, 234 people, ascending the mountain, the tallest mountain we have, by the way, in 2012, on one day, is insane. That's Mount Everest. Talk about the pressure we're putting on our rural locations. But all of this is happening, so pick a trend and pick a counter-trend and decide how you're going to target that and what you're going to do with it. we've always liked to belong to a collective and a group. And although we've changed away from the people we live with in the same road, where we used to have street parties, and we don't do that as much anymore, we now go electronically and find a community that we really enjoy being with. So, where was Freeman? Christine? You got it, sweetie. Comic-Con, right there. That's what it does. It taps straight into that need for the community that you decide you want to belong with, and that you decide you want to spend your money with, and that you decide you want to spend your time with. Think about this. Because in your visitor attraction, if you find a community that fits within your visitor attraction, then there is your market. And if you do that right, that repeat visitation becomes a heck of a lot easier. Now, whether that is Comic-Con, Burning Man, or a music festival, really is neither here nor there, as long as you're looking at how you can help these communities come together. We'll still be doing role-playing. That's not changed. It may have gone away from cops and robbers, like we used to do, to I want to be Rey, not even Star Wars, just Rey. I love my kids. I think they have taste. Or whether you want to be Harry Potter and a certain character within Harry Potter. The funny thing is, it's not just cops and robbers as a child, though. We're still doing that as adults now, and we're doing it more. So have a look at what you can do with role play, not just for children, but for adults, and how you can incorporate that. Some things never change. It is still about the experience. And now that I've spoken about them, here's my family. Go on, then. Thank you. I'm quite partial to them. The nutter in the top right-hand corner is not my husband. Let me just point that out. He's the one in the roller coaster. But yes, it's still about the experience. But make sure that there's a chance for a selfie in there for them. Some things never change. We still want to do the right thing. Some people still want to do the right thing. Kyle, some people still want to do the right thing. Seriously. I believe that. And it has massive impact. So have a look at what that means for you. Corporate social responsibility, the food you serve, where it comes from, and the information you give to your guests all tie in with this. But it's a really good thing, Kyle, because we still have to deal with that. But I wouldn't be a consultant worth any money, Abe, if I didn't give you a way to deal with this. So, like a good consultant, I will give you an acronym, 5 Ps. Proper, planning, prevents, poor, performance. It's for free, write it down. Vision is vital. Make sure you have that vision. If you can formulate it, go speak to Phil. Make sure you understand what the market is that you're trying to attract. If you're not sure how big that is, come talk to me. Make sure you understand what the financial model of that would be. What are the economics that tie into that? If you're not sure, come and talk to me. Understand the physical context in which you do this. And then design the best attraction ever. And once you've done that, by the way, congratulations, do it again. And keep doing it. Every couple of years, go through that process and make sure you're not missing anything, because that change is constant. And trust me, keep the faith. Change is not new. We will still make the most amazing visitor attractions. It'll still be brilliant. Just do your homework. Get the fundamentals right. It'll be awesome. So long. Thank you for the fish. I hope you enjoyed the ride.